KTN Global News. First, the headlines. Army says perpetrators must be arrested over slain soldiers. 17-year-old girl serves foster mother to death in Ondo. Tinubu endorsed national honors for slain soldiers in Delta. FG queries firm to withholding FG's 332 million naira meter fund. Israel government spokesperson Elion Levy is suspended. Oyowa hopeful River State United will top 3 finish. Forensic Center assures Mohbad's autopsy result in 3 weeks. And now the rest of our stories. Troops from the defense headquarters currently carrying out a manhunt for one Endurance Okode, alias Amangben, the prime suspect, and others involved in the killings of 17 soldiers and some civilians at Akoma Ugeli South local government area of Delta State, set to continue to be in the creeks. The army said it will remain there until the recovery of all weapons stolen by the perpetrators of the crime and also the arrest of all those involved. The General Officer Commanding Division 6 Nigerian Army Land Component Commander, Joint Task Force Major General Jamal Abdul-Salam, who disclosed this while hosting the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Niger Delta Development Commission in Port Harcourt Barracks. The GOC assured all that the troops conducting operations over the murder of officers and soldiers at the Akwama community that would be firm, strong, decisive, and professional in the course of the operations in the general area, while appreciating the NDDC Managing Director and his team for the visit, reiterating that no amount of propaganda, arm twisting, blackmailing, intimidation, and false narratives would distract troops from staying on course to achieve their objectives. He also said the mission handed to troops by the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Torid Labaja, is basically to recover the weapons scattered away by the perpetrators of this heinous crime, and assured that all those involved were arrested. Federal High Court in Abuja has declined to hold the impeachment proceedings activated by the Edo State House of Assembly against the Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu. Justice James Omotosho declined an oral application by Shaibu's lawyer, Professor Olawoye Awoyale San, asked the court to order parties in the suit to maintain the status quo. In declining the prayer, the judge and the governor of Edo State and the Edo State House of Assembly, who was the principal actors in the matter, have not been served with the originating summons of the suit as required by the law, and subsequently granted Shaibu's prayer to serve the court's papers on Obaseke and the State House of Assembly by the substituted means. Justice Omotosho ordered that the court process be pasted at the entrance gates of the Edo State Government House and the gates of the State House of Assembly complex in Benin, while the judge also directed that all court papers be served on parties in the matter with the use of registered courier companies. This is coming after the Edo State House of Assembly had on March 5, 2024, commenced impeachment proceedings against Shaibu over allegations of leaking of government secrets. Socio-political experts applauded the move by the Independent National Electoral Commission on the documentation and verification in line with the previous records of civil society groups before being inducted as election observers. He said the upcoming elections, which was being scheduled to hold in September, the experts emphasized on the need for INEC to ensure that its constitutional obligations are duly discharged with proactivity. Speaking on Atlantic Television Open Conversation, Asim Adams, a socio-political analyst, said the development is a move in the right direction if duly followed to the letter.
Well, a very important, assertion by the chairman of INEC, in the sense that in the past, like you rightly said, we have seen an amorphous group, that just come in once elections are, by the corner. They populate the airspace, both audio and visual. They populate it with adverts and say that they are monitoring elections. All this is geared towards getting money, from the international bodies, some international bodies who are interested in promoting good governance and free and fair elections in African states, for an example. Even INEC has to, give some money to aid them, because they also have to give them vests and stickers for them to aid their workability. But INEC has assisted them, by giving them these things to walk around so that they can go around the areas elections are taking place. For instance, in Edo State, that particular CSO or agency ought to go around the 23 local governments area of Edo State, because that is when and the day elections will be conducted.
Adams also said civil societies and other election observers need to support better processes and strategy in subsequent elections.
Yes, and why Mahmoud, a lot of them don't know
What's
why
going on?
That those organizations are formed. When you say election monitoring committees, you don't just go and monitor, then you go back and write whatever you like, and then you keep it in the archives, or you just give to journalists and say, this is your observation. You are supposed to submit, your observation, to the INEC. The essence is for INEC to look at where they made errors or mistakes.
This is coming after the Independent National Electoral Commission said it would no longer accredit civil society organizations and other bodies as observer groups if they fail to submit their previous election observations reports. INEC National Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu declared this recently in Abuja at the first quarterly consultative meeting with civil society organizations, CSOs. Yakubu said INEC would continue to partner with CSOs, saying the Commission appreciates the observation and recommendation contained in the election observation reports. We will be back after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
Yes, I want Mahmoud.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
you human trafficker.
Honorable they are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
people into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
On the point.
on them. They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Ebonyi State Governor Francis Wifo has stopped revenue collections from collecting taxes from vegetable sellers and other petty traders. The statement issued by the Governor's Chief Press Secretary, Dr. Mande Uzo, in Abakaliki said the governor dropped the hints during the swearing-in of members of the Revenue Appeal Commission held at a centenary city near Government House, Abakaliki, and described the collection of taxes from vegetable sellers as inhuman and urged them to avoid such acts. He said there was no reason to collect tax from people selling their farm produce in the local markets. The governor urged Augustine Wakegu, chairman of the Revenue Service and Appeal Commission, and its members to go about their duties with a human face to improve the internally generated revenue of the state and not step on the toes of the people. Responding, Wakwegu, who spoke on behalf of the appointees, thanked the governor and assured him that the Revenue Service would work hard to improve the revenue of the state as well as improve the ease of doing business in the state. A grieved crisis which rocked the election of Inter-Party Advisory Council in Enugu State has finally been resolved. This is coming after the crisis where the new ESCO members at the Enugu State Office of the Independent National Electoral Commission degenerated into a free-for-all by a combined team of security agencies, including the police and the Department of State Services. However, at the IPAC Secretariat in Enugu, the warring factions were reconciled, leading to the handing over of the office to the new chairman, Mr. Obioma Nnamani, who doubles as chairman of Boot Party in the state. In a remark, Nnamani said that IPAC will live up to its functions by ensuring a high level of transparency and accountability in all its dealings. On his part, the Special Advisor to Governor Peter Mba on political matters, Frank Anyoma, advised the body to maintain its position as a watchdog to hold government accountable at all times and not them to forgive all its errors, and looks forward to greater and a more formidable IPAC in Enugu State. Lagos Zone of the National Emergency Management Agency is not happy with the escalation of the fire incident that engulfed 4 buildings in the Dumota area of Lagos Island local government area of the state due to lack of inadequate water supply. The NEMA State Coordinator Ibrahim Fariloye, who disclosed this, said the emergency responders were faced with the challenge of water supply that could have aided the effective quelling of the fire, while preventing the escalation and the level of damage caused by the fire. He also said there was no water source within the proximity of the fire incident, thereby forcing the fire vehicles to go in turn to get water, adding that the Lagos Building Control Agency will access 2 of the 4 buildings affected to determine if they could still be occupied by the traders, and urge the traders to support the government in situating a water source close to the market. Lagos State government has advised electricity distribution companies to engage in indiscriminate digging of the ground for their installations without seeking relevant approvals from required agencies. The Chief Executive Officer, Lagos State Infrastructure Maintenance and Regulatory Agency, Oyekami Elegushi, who disclosed this in Ikeja, said the planned clampdown by the state government follows several reports that some of the discos indulge in installing their infrastructure across the state without receiving necessary permits. Lasimra Boss said the government will hold the stakeholders' engagement where issues affecting major players, especially discos unauthorized digging, will be discussed. While the federal government has implemented a name and shame policy that lawlessness and illegal digging without seeking appropriate permits before starting the project will no longer be condoned. Lagos State Waterways Authorities has assured the National Inland Water Authority that it will boost efficiency in the state waterways. The general manager of the LASWA, Olademola Emmanuel, who disclosed this in Lagos, said the state government will obey recent Supreme Court judgment, while the Supreme Court had in January held that it was the sole responsibility of the central government to impose levies and issue license to operators in the industry. He said that despite the Apex Court's judgment, LASWA would not stop its investment in safety and developing the waterways, building jetties and others to ensure the waterways sector is constantly improving. 17-year-old foster daughter, identified as Wumi, has alleged killed a 54-year-old civil servant, Mrs. Fumilayo Adelaye, in other axis of Akure South local government area of Ondo State during the week. The suspect, who fled the home after committing the crime, was apprehended by police following the discovery of the decomposing body of Adelayi at her 3-bedroom bungalow along Superjet Road, Premier Estate off Ada Road, and the body was found by her neighbors, who were curious to know her whereabouts after they noticed her absence. According to one of her neighbors who craved an immunity, Adelayi returned from her Ministry of Finance office on March 13th, where she attended the inauguration of a new permanent secretary in her ministry before she returned home to meet her untimely death upon arrival. He said the remains were visible through the window when her car was discovered parked inside the compound while her foster daughter was missing. The police spokesperson in state, Fumilayo Odulami Omisaya, who confirmed the incident, said the teenager had been arrested while investigations has commenced. National State Governor Abdullahi Sule has distributed 5,000 bags of rice and 5,000 naira cash each to students of tertiary institutions at the College of Education, Akwanga, in the state. A statement on the governor's verified Facebook page, Sule extended the gesture as palliative to students of the tertiary institutions in the state and urged students to appreciate the gesture as part of the government's plan to cushion the effect of the hardship in the country. Kaduna State Police Command has arrested 3 suspected vandals of electricity aluminium cables in the Lere local government area of the state. The command's police public relations officer, ASP Masir Hassan, who confirmed the arrest, said the suspects were arrested along Yabita village on Saminika, Pamugwa Road in Lere local government area of the state. He also said all the suspects were from Ugwan Bawa in Saminika, adding that they were found to have folded aluminium cables, while the suspects claimed to be working for Kaduna Electricity as ad hoc staff without any form of identification. Women in Bauchi State have embraced adult education with the support from their husbands. Speaking at a Wonder workshop held by the United Nations Children's Education Funds in partnership with Nigerian Association of Women Journalists, some of the women expressed gratitude to their husbands, adding that the workshop is to build the capacity of women to accelerate more enrollment of Bauchi women into acquiring basic education, in line with the International Women's Day celebration held in Bauchi with the theme Invest in Women. The workshop is also in partnership with the Office of the First Lady, the State University Education Board, and Bauchi State Agency for Mass Education. One of the beneficiaries of the workshop, Juliana Akilapa, said, without the support of her husband, she would not have been able to participate in the workshop, adding that she has also enrolled in one of the informal learning centers for adult education in the state. Speaking earlier at the training, the chairperson of NAWOJ, Rashida Yusuf, spoke on the crucial role women play in nation building and stressed the importance of establishing informal learning centers to address women's educational needs. Minister of Information Alhaji Muhammad Idris says President Bola Tinubu is determined to work with the National Assembly in 2024 constitutional review process to achieve the needed amendment to allow the creation of state police. He said with the establishment of state police in Nigeria, about 10 million Nigerians will be directly and indirectly employed, with each state presenting an average of 20,000 to 30,000 police personnel recruitment, adding that local manufacturers and producers of police fabrics will multiply. He also said the civic society and lawyers at subnational levels will be more fully engaged as litigations and prosecution increases, adding that the agitation for the reconstruction of the underpinning structure of the country has been on the front burner of agitation by various groups. He enumerated the benefits of the reforms as several, adding that it has become clear that the nation's under police with less than 500,000 police officers. Nigerian Army says it repeatedly wrote to Controller General of the Correctional Service warning of dangers before the July 5th, 2022 jailbreak at the Kuje Custodian Center in Abuja, where over 900 inmates escaped. The Army said the jailbreak could be linked to the lack of closed-circuit television cameras coupled with the low perimeter fencing at the facility. The Army disclosed this during the investigation instituted by the House of Representatives Joint Committees on Reformatory Institutions, Justice, Police Affairs, Interior, and Human Rights to ascertain the whereabouts of inmates who escaped from the Abuja Correctional Center. Assistant Director, Commercial Law, Army Directorate of Legal Services, Major Peter Obunya, said that after prison break, the Army observed that the place where Kuje Prison is located is more of a built-up area. Obunya, who represented the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tori Labaja, also said the Nigerian Army was not the only complementary security by way of assistance, while the Army is not the only security agency deployed to Kuje Prison. Defense Headquarters has launched its standard operating procedure for the Safe School Initiative. The Safe School Initiative was launched in 2014 after the abduction of about 300 schoolgirls from Chibok, Borno State, as part of efforts to ensure that children in conflict areas or affected by insecurity continue with their education. And the initiative is largely implemented by the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps with the support of their security agencies. The launch of the SOP for the military personnel that would be involved in the initiative was coming after abductions of school children in Kaduna, where 287 pupils were kidnapped and 15 Tanzania students in Sokoto State. Speaking at the launch of the SOP, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, said the SOP will provide necessary guidelines for members of the armed forces to implement the Safe School Initiative within the confines of international and national laws, and called on stakeholders to work together to ensure school children are safe in school. Delivering the keynote address, General Martin Luther Agwai, retired, said the success of the initiative depends on the collective responsibility of stakeholders and citizens by taking ownership and providing intelligence to security agencies, and the move affects the armed force collective commitment to upholding the sanctity of education and creating a conducive environment for teaching and learning to thrive. Inspector General of Police is urging the Federal High Court in Abuja to order the transfer of the trial of the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officers of Depute Midstream Company Limited, Akintoye Akindele, to the Lagos Division of the Federal High Court. Akindele and his company are standing trial on a 4-count criminal charge bordering on alleged diversion of sum of $5 million belonging to Summit Oil International Limited, while the two defendants in the suit who committed the act between 2017 were allegedly converted, and 2017 and 2021 were allegedly converted the sum received from Shell into personal use. While the defendants had pleaded not guilty to the charges, Akindele was granted bail in the sum of 750 million naira, while at the last sitting, trial judge Justice James Kolawole Omotosho had ordered Akindele's remand at the Kuje prison, Abuja, pending the confirmation of the perfection of his bail. Justice Omotosho had declined an oral application by Police Counsel Mr. Simon Low San to transfer the trial to Lagos on the grounds that such application must be thorough affidavit evidence, and that the defendants be also served and respond accordingly, adding that the request was predicated on the grounds that the evidence of the charge occurred in Lagos and that the witnesses are in Lagos. The senior lawyer, who stated that the motion was supported by a 10-paragraph affidavit and the plaintiff is relying on the case of Badgore versus the federal government of Nigeria, wherein the Apex Court in its judgment set aside the conviction of the appellant on grounds of territorial jurisdiction. He informed the judge that the judgment of the trial court, which found the defendant guilty of money laundering, was upheld by the Court of Appeal. But on getting to Apex Court, and the appellant raised the issue of jurisdiction, which is upheld, and the Apex Court nullified his convictions. President Bola Tinubu has been criticized over his alleged reluctance to tackle monumental corruption in Nigeria, especially in the Nigerian Customs Service. Executive Director, Resource Center for Human Rights and Civic Education, Ibrahim M. Zukulari, who disclosed this in Abuja, said Nigerians are facing decadence and threat to the country's narcissist democracy, and called on all anti-corruption advocates and well-meaning Nigerians to stand up against corruption, demand accountability, and urgently cleanse the public sector. The group said it is deeply concerned about the latest exposure of corruption involving the Nigerian Customs Service, while the Minister of Finance, the Board of Nigerian Customs, and the National Assembly must urgently respond to the EFCC investigation report, stressing that the government must work towards strengthening institutions and promoting a culture of integrity and ethical behavior in Nigeria. Our group nurses in the country have sued the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria and the Minister of Health, as well as others, over the new certificate verification guidelines. This is coming after the group had, in February 7th, issued a circular revising the guidelines for requesting verification of the certificates for nurses and midwives. The council stated, amongst others, that applicants seeking verification of certificates from foreign nursing boards and councils must possess 2 years of post-qualification experience from the date of issuance of the permanent practicing license, while the new guidelines came into force on March 1st, 2024. But nurses and midwives under the aegis of the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives expressed concern that the revised guidelines for certificate verification were targeted at preventing them from going abroad in search of greener pastures, and are particularly uncomfortable with the provision in the guidelines that a nurse seeking NMCN certificate must have a minimum of 2 years post-qualification experience. The nurses also oppose the requirement that a nurse applying for NMCN's certification must obtain a letter of good standing from the Chief Executive Officer of their place of work and the last training institution attended, while the processing of application shall take a minimum of 6 months. They are urging the court to restrain the defendants and their agent from implementing the NMCS circular pending determination. Labour Party National Chairman Julius Abure says the Nigerian Labour Congress under President Joe Ajaero is not above the law. Abure accused the NLC of engaging in a show of rascality by picketing its office across the country and described the NLC's action as an abuse of power, stressing that the body's action was politically motivated ahead of LP's national convention. The NLC leadership had accused Abure of planning to hold an illegal convention, stressing that the Nigerian Labour Congress, under the leadership of Joe Ajaero, is not above the law. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, has cautioned media organizations against fake news and misleading reports ahead of the Edo and Ondo governorship elections. Yakubu, who gave the caution at the first quarterly consultative meeting with media organizations in Abuja, said the Edo governorship poll is scheduled to place on September 21st, 2024, and the Ondo governorship poll will be held on November 16, 2024, while only 10 parties have uploaded the particulars of their candidates in INEC portal, with only 3 days left to the deadline ahead of the Edo poll, and 17 out of 19 parties have indicated interest in participating in the Ondo governorship elections. Yakubu also said INEC does not believe in censorship, and the antidote to fake news is greater openness and transparency, while the INEC chairman urged media organizations to engage with political parties as well as the aspirants and report on the primaries with the same diligence and depth their reports the main election conducted by INEC. In his remark, the President of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Chris Isiguzo, stressed the importance of free, fair and credible elections in advancement of the country's democratic governance, as well as the noble ideas of democracy, accountability and civic responsibility. National Peace Committee, led by the former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, has explained why it did not penalize candidates and political parties who flouted the peace accord entered into ahead of the 2023 general elections. The National Peace Committee said he had come under criticism over its silence following reported skirmishes, intimidations and alleged vote-buying activities, especially at the February 25th presidential election, where the current president, Bola Tinubu, was declared the winner. Reacting to the criticism, NPC's head of Secretariat and Executive Director of the Kuka Center, Reverend Father Atta Bukundo, explained that the National Peace Committee does not have the constitutional power to arrest or prosecute any politician. Addressing newsmen at the public presentation of the preliminary evaluation report on support to the NPC through the Kuka Center, Bukundo said was the responsibility of the police and other security agencies constituted by the law to go after violators of the peace accord. Nigerian Governors Forum has advised the National Minimum Wage Committee to take into account present circumstances, unique characteristics of individual states, and the resulting effect of both government and private sectors' employability to pay, determining the wage amount. Labour Union said the existing national minimum wage of 30,000 is no longer viable, considering the steep inflation rate of 29.9% reported by the National Bureau of Statistics in the country, stressing that in early January, the federal government launched the tripartite committee responsible for deliberating on national minimum wage, while the Vice President Kashim Shettima inaugurated a 37-member panel at the Council Chamber of State House in Abuja. The committee comprises representatives from the federal and state governments, the private sector, and organized labor. The committee's mandate is to propose and revise a revised national minimum wage for the nation, and following consultations nationwide, workers have requested varying minimum wage rates across different geopolitical zones, while the federal government minimum wage panel has initiated the compilation of reports from public hearings conducted in various zones. NGF, in a communique issued at the conclusion of his virtual meeting and signed by his chairman, Kwara State Governor Abdul Raham, stated that the importance of incorporating state policing policies as a crucial amendment in the ongoing 1999 constitutional amendment process is to address a fundamental flaw in the national security framework. The communique, among others, urged the committee to consider the current realities, individual states, peculiarities, and consequential impact on the capacity of the government as well as private sector employers to pay, and also emphasize the need for proposals to be data-driven and evidence-based. Nigerian Civil Service has graduated 68 civil servants from AIG Imoku Day Foundation Civil Service School at Mark Transformation of Public Service, deliver, strengthen civil service integrity and excellence. The Honorable Minister of the State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Tunji Alausa, said the foundation has greatly built, increased the capacity of the public service, and has helped the present government in achieving a sustainable development in the country.
What Imoku Day Foundation is doing, this is building capacity in our country where we need it the most, a public service. You can see the foundation public leaders program that they've been doing for the past 3 years. I'm glad to be part of this the graduation of the third cohort. They are building people, improving our processes, and helping our government to deploy technology in the way our public service work for the citizens of Nigeria. This aligns into what our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is driving as he continues to move this country on the path of sustainable development now and into the future, decades from now. Nigeria is in a good place. We are moving our country forward. Our trajectory is good. The prospect of massive development, where our citizens will now continue to reap the positive benefit of government.
The head of civil service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Esan, expressed a profound gratitude to the AIG Imoku Day Foundation, saying he has always been of great assistance to the Nigerian people, adding that the government in Africa as a whole must ensure better training for its public servants.
It's actually been assisting the office both technically and financially, and we really appreciate what the Ike Imoku Foundation is doing for the service as a whole. They championed digitalization. They also assisted the office to achieve a lot, especially in our training programs. We always sit together to develop the curriculum of our in-house training programs, and that's why our training programs now are considered, top-notch. And, for the PMS, even capacity building, generally they have done a lot, right from building capacity of permanent secretaries, even to mentoring, one-on-one mentoring, of permanent secretaries, of directors. The foundation has added a lot of value to the work that the Office of the Head of Services do. Well, this is a capacity development program, and what Ike Imokwede Foundation is looking at is that they want to select the best of the best in the public service.
Meanwhile, the chairman of African Initiative for Governance, Iboje Imokude, said the foundation aim is to reform the African public service sector. African men and women with a like mind and unrelenting desire, hardworking, and those who believe Africa can improve itself in every sphere of life.
The foundation has one strong conviction and belief, which is that for Africa to take its rightful place in the community of continents, and for African nations to move from their current state of, if you like, underdevelopment and join the pantheon of advanced nations, we need leaders in the public sector who have the skills and the abilities to drive reform and to make transformation work. We have underinvested significantly in the skills of our public sector personnel, both at the junior, middle, and even at the senior levels. And so we made a big commitment to $100 million commitment over a certain period of time to train up to 3,000 public leaders at world-class training level. So we work with University of Oxford, the Blavatnik School of Government, amongst others, and we arrange training in Nigeria here. The Public Leaders Program is one of our flagship programs. There we train about between 7.
President Bola Tinubu has approved a befitting burial for the 17 soldiers who were killed while on a peacemaking mission in Delta State. He approved the conferment of posthumous national honors on the slain soldiers. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Ajuru Ngalele, who disclosed this in a statement, said the president disclosed this while breaking the Ramadan fast with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, and the House leadership. The president, while expressing his heartfelt condolences to the families of the bereaved, pledged that the sacrifices of the fallen heroes would never be in vain, adding that the officers would be given a befitting burial and national honors. President Bola Tinubu has banned ministers, head of agencies, and other government officials from embarking on public-funded foreign trips. The ban will last for 3 months in the first instance and will take effect on April 1st, 2024. A statement signed by the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Bajambiamila, and addressed to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, issued an order to reduce the number of people accompanying him on both local and foreign trips, said his delegation members should not exceed 25 for local travels and 20 for international trips. He also mandated that security agents at his destination should provide his protection instead of being accompanied by many security personnel from Abuja. Responding to the public outburst, the government said it provided funding for only 422 trips. Out of the 590 individuals in the delegation, adding that the government officials who intend to go on any public-funded international trips must seek and obtain presidential approval at least 2 weeks prior to the embarking on any of such trips, which must be deemed absolutely necessary. Senate has called for multi-sectorial approach and intervention to tackle the growing threat of insecurity posed by the menace of out-of-school children in Nigeria. The upper chamber said the dangers posed to society by the growing number of out-of-school children were real, citing cases of banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, and other forms of violent crimes, and its manifestation in society. Correspondent Rotimi Adewumi reports. National Assembly has passed the Student Loans Access to Higher Education Act, as well as Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2024. This is coming after separate considerations by both the Senate and the House of Representatives of the reports of the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TET Fund, while President Bola Tinubu had in a letter written to the Senate last Thursday sought the repeal of the existing law and submitted a fresh bill to be passed into law. This request came a day after the announcement of a temporary suspension of the commencement of the student loan scheme, which would allow students of tertiary institutions access interest-free loans to complete their studies, while President Tinubu held in June 2023 signed the student bill into law to enable students access loans at interest-free rates. The Senate thereafter passed for second reading a bill for an act to repeal the Student Loan and Access Higher Education Act 2023 and enact the Student Loan Access to Higher Education Bill 2024. It also makes provision for loan forgivers in the event of death or act of God causing inability to repay. Senate says it's resolved to name one of its committee room after the late Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Lekan Balogun. This is coming after the Oba Balogun died on the Thursday, March 14, 2024, at the University College Hospital, Ibadan, at age 81 after a brief illness, 2 years after ascending the throne on March 11, 2022. Prior to becoming the Olubadan, Balogun was a senator representing Oyo Central Senatorial District between 1999 and 2023. As a senator, he was chairman of the Senate Committee on National Planning and was a member of many Senate committees such as Appropriations, Security and Intelligence, Police Affairs and Defense. The Senate's resolution to immortalize him followed a motion sponsored by Senator Sharafaddin Ali, representing APC Oyo South, and his motion informed the Senate that the late Olubadan was a leader par excellence, a community developer and a service-driven politician. The minority leader, Senator Abba Moro, representing PDP Benue South, also eulogized the virtues of the late monarch in his contribution to the motion, while after debate on the motion adopted all the prayers sought as resolution, one of them was to immortalize the late monarch by naming one of the Senate committee rooms after him. The Red Chamber also held a minute's silence in honor of the late Olubadan. Senate Joint Committee on Defense, Army, Navy and Air Force has held a closed meeting with the Nation Service Chiefs over the recent killings of troops in Okoma Community, Bomadi local government area of Delta State. The meeting had in attendance the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Torid Labaja, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan, and Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala. Recall that the Senate joint plenary on Tuesday, March 19, 2024, mandated the Joint Committee to investigate the recent killings of troops in Delta State and urged the federal government to ensure that those responsible for the heinous crimes are identified, apprehended, and brought to justice. The Joint Committee, chaired by Senator Ahmad Lawan, said the meeting was fruitful and decisions were made. Meanwhile, marking the festive spirits of Easter and Eid holidays, the National Assembly has announced the adjournment of plenary sessions until the 16th of April. House of Representatives has called on the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control to stick to its resolution and lift the ban on sachet alcoholic beverages and PET bottles. The chairman, House Committee on NAFDAC, Mrs. Regina Akume, who gave the charge in Abuja, asked NAFDAC to lift the ban on the production of alcohol in sachet and PET bottles of less than 200 ml. The resolution by the House followed agitation and protest by distillers who said the ban will throw 500,000 workers out of jobs and ruin 800 billion naira investment, adding that the ban came at the wrong time considering the economic situation in the country, stressing that the poverty level is on the increase and there is a paucity of foreign exchange to do business. She also advocated increased monitoring and compliance checks by the NAFDAC to ensure strict product quality in terms of content and safety, as well as the recycling of used materials for the promotion of the green economy, and described the ban as a move against the spirit and letters of the Constitution, as well as the economic recovery plan of the President Bola Tinubu-led administration. House of Representatives has condemned the abuse of proliferation of orphanage homes in Nigeria. The Green Chamber urged the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare to interface with all 36 states and the FCT for immediate and full compliance of the mandate of orphanage homes across the country. This resolution followed the motion on the need to stem the tide of proliferation of orphanage homes in Nigeria, moved by Honorable Umerengwa Boniface Sunday, representing Rivers State, adding that the provision of Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, said the primary duty of government is to provide security and welfare to the people, while stressing that the primary aim for establishment of orphanage homes is to cater for the orphans and ensure their safety and well-being in Nigeria. He expressed concern that a good number of orphanage homes are being used for human trafficking, whereby innocent girls are being recruited to embark on illegal immigration to foreign countries, where they eventually end up either being abused or in prostitution. The House further mandated the Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, both to ensure standardization of orphanage homes and close those under-resourced. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, has blamed the problem of Nigerian on civil servants, technocrats, saying that they have contributed heavily to the problems. Honorable Kalu, who disclosed this during a courtesy call by the Platinum Public Service Bootcamp attendees at National Assembly Abuja, raised the need to bring digitization into public service space and emphasized that an auditing app can encourage accountability and productivity in the service. He acknowledged the youth as the energy of a nation, noting that many young people do not understand the concept of public service, which has always been misinterpreted as a mere means of livelihood. Kalu also said the public service is more than a job, but a commitment to the betterment of the society. Honorable Benjamin Kalu, Deputy Speaker, House of Representatives, the boot camp is a transformative journey that aims at reprogramming the mindset of Nigerian youths with the aim to address inclusion and development of youths across sectors. Bill for the amendment of the Universal Basic Education Commission, called UBEC, act to increase its funding from the consolidated revenue from 2% to 4% has passed the second reading in the House of Representatives. The chairman of House Committee on Basic Education and Service, Bako Useni, who disclosed this during the committee oversight function at the Digital Research Center built by UBEC in Abuja, Nigeria, said the center was built for the training of teachers on digital education in Nigeria. Bako said the 10th Assembly saw the need to increase financial resources to the basic education subsector for set objectives to be further met, while the amendment bill sponsored by Makta Shagea to increase revenue equiting UBEC from 2% to 4%. Oseni further said the committee is happy with the digital research center built by UBEC, as it has always been the desire of the committee to ensure that newer dimensions are introduced to the basic education sector in Nigeria, adding that the committee will ensure continuous oversight functions for the sustainability of the Digital Research Center, like all others under the mandate. The Executive Secretary of UBEC, Dr. Hamid Boyi, said, the center is an effort to move digital education in Nigeria to the next level.